In November 2017, the winds of change were blowing in Zimbabwe. Their political terrain underwent seismic shifts following Operation Restore Order, the veto and coup that led to the resignation of Robert Mugabe, Zimbabwe's political patriot for 37 years. Mugabe's former vice president, Emmerson Mnangagwa, had been fired from the government on the 6th of November, was the military's preferred candidate to replace Mugabe. Mnangagwa became Zimbabwe's new president on November the 24th. But did these winds blow with enough force to clear the decks, or only enough to rearrange the furniture? Beyond changing the guard, could the coup open space for more meaningful political changes in governance? If so, how could this change be supported? Was there a role for the international community, for Zimbabweans and Zimbabwean institutions? And if this new dispensation was not the fundamental change Zimbabweans sought, where else could they turn? However, critics are quick to point out that Mnangagwa, for a long time viewed as Mugabe's loyal henchman, was incapable of breaking away from the calamitous policies of a man he has repeatedly described as his father or mentor, and part of the solution to the country's myriad social and economic problems. Mnangagwa's presidency is viewed as a perpetuation of Mugabeism, very much like putting new wine in old bottles.
Because Mnangagwa has created this sort of freedom for you to speak, will you give him your vote?
No.
Why? Tell me why.
It's same. Mugabe and Mnangagwa same.
But if it's ED, I don't think anything will change. Because we have been with these guys for the past 30 years.
38 years.
38 years, but nothing. You see, all these people, they are jobless.
We are doing the Finding Hope series, the story of Zimbabwe, and we are actually in Zimbabwe. But what we've done is we've gone out of the city center and we're exploring the story. Why Finding Hope? Finding hope because the country has been in turmoil for the longest time, in terms of economic and social ills that have literally brought the country and the economy to a standstill. People don't have jobs. At some point, the country did not even have the simplest of things found in shops, though of course things picked up, but it could get better. So we're going to find that story, particularly because in the next 3 days, Zimbabwe is going to the elections, that is the 30th of July, where people are looking forward to this game-changing election that will bring them the much-needed hope to transform the Zimbabwe that they want, the Zimbabwe that they want to see, a Zimbabwe that has hope for the young ones, hope for the future, and hope for prosperity. So right now we are in a place called Chitumbiza, and we're going to Seke. We're going to talk to people of different classes as we go across the country, just to explore and follow that story, that Finding Hope story, the story of Zimbabwe. So the situation has not been a good situation economically in Zimbabwe.
Yeah.
People don't have jobs, some people don't even have food, some people are not even going to school, some people go to school and still won't be able to do anything in life, So what is your comment on all that? How has it even affected you yourself as a child of Zimbabwe and your family? Even after the elections, what are you looking forward to? What do you want to see? What kind of a Zimbabwe do you want?
I go to work, but it's not like it's professional. I just do some deals.
What kind of deals?
Like buying and selling. These days, for you to get a job, you have to know someone or you have to be known by someone. As for me, I wish after elections, we are looking forward for a change, real change. The youths are now turning into drugs. Industries are not opening up. Sometimes for girls to get a job, they have to do something which is not
something as in what? They have to give their bodies up for them to get favors?
For real, something like that. They have to give out their bodies for them to get jobs. As for boys, their challenges is getting into drugs, stealing, turning into gangsters and stuff. Because they're just looking for a way forward. So this time around, we want real change.
But then, for real change to come, who do you think will bring the real change? Do you understand? We've got parties that are running for this presidential campaign. Who then would bring reasonable change? Who?
I think we want someone who is new. We want new faces.
Okay.
Not just seeing the old faces we know. We want someone who is young, who is new, who has a 21st century vision. Not like 80s vision, not like dictatorship vision, you know what I'm saying? Things should be equal for everyone. Everyone should benefit because everyone is a citizen. The youth must be employed. We want employment first. And we want a better Zimbabwe. It's been a long time.
But you're talking about a new face, somebody with a 21st century vision, somebody who's young. The only young candidate that we have, or rather that you have at this point in time, is Nelson Chamisa. So are you saying that he's a better candidate, at least to change things for Zimbabwe?
Yeah, for now he's young. We can put our hopes on him. That's okay, because he's young and he has never led before. We can't judge him because you have to give him a chance. Because he has never been given a chance. We want someone who is new, like I said. I just wish for my fellow Zimbabweans for us to just come together. Because for me as a person, I cannot bring change on my own. We have to be a one team. All for one for all, for us to bring the change.
That's it.
We have to be united. We have to live peacefully, loving one another, like we love ourselves, you know. So, and as for others who are listening, change begins with you, change begins with me.
Calvin lives in Highfields, a first-time voter. Let's hear what he had to say.
I was a virgin voter. I started voting today, and I'm happy with the experience, and I voted for the change. I'm very proud, and I'm quite confident that this change is coming today. And like, for example, where I voted, I can see this change coming. We are sick and tired of this government, and if we can get a change, I think it's a blessing to the nation.
Okay. Now you speak of not having had a job for the longest time. So how has your life been like? What is a normal day for you in terms of survival?
I can say I'm surviving by grace. Because, you know, whatever I'm doing now, you cannot predict life. You understand? So if I wake up today, I just eat what is there. I just see a day by day. That's the problem we are having. It's a day by day. It's like sometimes I can do even food for work. And I'd never expected that from this country.
Now, when the elections have been counted and all the results are out, and let's say perhaps things take a different turn, maybe the candidate that you voted for is not the one that will win, what will this mean for you?
I'm a believer. This is, for me, it's like a one-man race. It's a one-man race. I don't believe in another result. Like our president said, Mr. Chamisa, we are believers. We have been praying for this. And I'm quite confident it's coming like that.
This young lad has never been to school, but started a business of his own in Wilding. He says he has never hoped for change like he does now. Life has been so difficult that he missed a chance at school. He never thought life would actually turn out this way. My name is Adam, and I started this business when I was 15. Now I'm 21 years and I'm still in this business. We are hoping that if we vote, things can change and things will get better. So we look forward to voting. I should have been having my own stuff, but I'm still working all alone. In Seke, I met these ladies who occupy a small space at a home industry. They cook sadza and chicken stew for a living, but this has been a tough business to run as the economy is cash-strapped.
Of which pa 50 cents ukada kutarisa kuti profit yacho unenge watenga hupfu 1 kushop 10 kg $4 wobva watenga broiler $6.
Customers cannot pay for the food, there is no money in the banks, and EcoCash charges them a large percentage. It completely renders the money useless.
Nezvikuti ukwanise kuti uendese mwana kuchikoro vanoda cash musprinter macho iwe unenge watengesa neco cash kuti uchinotora paeco cash rate yacho.
In Goromonzi, a rural place in Mashonaland, I met these two ladies, Angeline Soko and Lena Chirenge. They're widows, doing all they can to fend for their children. We met them as they were on their way to the marketplace.
But upenyu wangu wakadiwo mukugara ikoko apa ndikubvunzira kuti mushandi wemaoko mabasa chaiwo kuti vanhu vaonewo kudya vachirarama vana vachendawo kuchikoro zvemahospitari mvura dzekunwa pekugara pacho dzimba dzekugara zvanga zvakamirawo sei
aiwa pakuti tange iyo tichitanga kugara panapa zvazvakatomboti tiomerei pasina mvura.
Oh, well, we have been surviving, but particularly looking at the water situation, we never had water when we moved here first, so it was difficult for us to go about. We used to take drinking water from unsafe sources, but now it's better because we got Western donors that came in the area and built boreholes. But then eventually we got water, but when we started, we used to dig boreholes that were unsafe. So at least those unsafe sources of water that we used to have, we now use them to do laundry. My husband died in 2001, and since then life has been very difficult. I've had to find ways of surviving. Therefore, I've resorted to selling vegetables and tomatoes. It was really difficult, and you would see that if you just sit and wait for people to help, life would not be easy. The issue of money has been our greatest challenge. There's no money. Even as people are buying and selling, there's no money. People say they've got money in their phone, EcoCash. But even if you get the EcoCash, by the time you change it, all the money that you have is taken by the percentages. So we don't have money, and it's really difficult, but we are trying all we can to survive.
Saka manje vana munozoita sei manje nevana mune vanaka mune mhuri saka kuchikoro kwacho kudhuze here kure zvikoro zviri padhuze saka mamuchibhadhira sei maschool fees hakuna mari vanhu havana mari saka maschool fees achari kubhadharwa sei havasi kunetsera nyaya dzeschool fees dzekudzinga vana kuchikoro
zvakaita fanike ina hangu zvandakaita panapa.
My children here are orphans, they don't have a father, but thank God for the donors that have come to take them to school. Their fees is paid by Smile and Kappenham. All we just do is to get books, maybe shoes, the small things. The school fees is not a challenge because the donors pay the fees in full.
Kuchipatara zvavari kuita. Hongu vanoti kuchipatara mahara handiti. Vanogona kuti
They say that the clinics and the hospitals are free, but if you go to the clinic or the hospital, they write a prescription and ask you to go buy medication in a pharmacy or a chemist. Meanwhile, I have come to the hospital because I don't have anywhere else to go. I don't have the money to pay. So we don't understand when they say that medication is free because we don't see where that comes in.
Vanozoenda kupi kunobatsirwa iko kumamisha kunoku iyo muchiti clinic yacho iri kure kuruku and havana kana.
For those that are pregnant, they go to the closest, which is the training center. But because it's a small clinic, it doesn't have much supplies. So if it's an urgent case, they have to call an ambulance to take them to Makumbe District Hospital or hire their own car. But if the worst comes to the worst, they have to be taken to Parenyatwa Hospital in the city center of Harare. It is rather sad, though, to note that the hospital has a chemist in it, but the hospital will not give you the medication. It will actually write a prescription for you to go and buy your own medication in the chemist. Meanwhile, it's supposed to be for free.
Okay, imimi mbotudzayo kuti zvakakumirirawo seiwo nemhuri yenyu.
It has also been difficult for me. It's the same situation. You have to buy and sell vegetables for you to survive. The kids have to still go to school. You have to buy food. And if you don't pay your school fees, the children will be chased away from school. So it's the same situation even with cash. We still all have to rely on EcoCash. And EcoCash has high percentages.
Kuti vaone kurarama but kutengesa kwacho kunonetsa zvakangowanda wanda kana kuchikoro clinic yacho hana mushonga nyaya yacho imwe chete mufungi saka zvinopa kuvhota apa baba chii chamakatarisira kuti chinochinja uye ndiani anokwanisa kuzvichinja.
We've just come from voting. We're not sure. We just put our X somewhere. We don't even know when the results will be released. We don't even know whether they have been released and who has won. But whoever is going to win the election, we're hoping that they will improve our lives. Who knows, maybe it will get worse, maybe it will get better, but we hope for the best.
Vanhu vehurumende vakamboedzawo kana kubatsirawo kana nechinhuwanira mumusha muno. Kana kumboyo kuti tauya kuzokuisirayo magetsi kana tauya kuzoisawo pombi.
If at all the government cared, would you not have been driving on a tarred road when you were coming to our home? Clearly things are not well. If it rains, as members of this community, we have to fix the road on our own and with our own means for motorists to drive safely. Yet it is the job of the local government.
Is a 30-minute breaking and engaging discussion program that enlightens and informs viewers on political and current events happening everywhere in the world.
Its designers believe that market and financial liberalization plus civil service and public enterprise reform would drive economic growth with manufacturing as the lead sector. Many of the public sector reforms were stillborn, however, and deindustrialization instead accelerated. Industrial output today is less than 10% of GDP against a peak in the early 1990s of 25%. The results of all these bad decisions and actions are evident in Zimbabwe today.
In your line of profession, how will you describe the current situation, the current money shortage situation? What is that? What is the meaning of that? That an economy can crunch so much to such a dire point?
In my line of work, we see it a lot, obviously, because the way we gauge the economy, I think as lawyers, is how are our clients able to pay and what types of clients do we currently have. And as a corporate lawyer, you start to notice that there are less and less businesses that are able to take up legal services, and even those that are able to take up the services struggle to pay. So it's been very different for me, having moved back from South Africa, where businesses have more disposable income and more access to liquidity and are able to pay for your services quicker and without haggling quite as much, to then moving over to Zimbabwe, where businesses are not quite able to pay on time, or your caliber of clients has changed, or the number of the cake is smaller, basically. The pie is smaller, there's less corporates to go around. So I think in my line of work, that's how we start to gauge how the economy is doing. And obviously that's affected by cash shortages and lack of money, lack of foreign currency. Companies are not able to pay for their supplies.
Although in the early days after independence, the Mugabe government was theoretically committed to Marxism, Leninism, it never paid more than lip service to the concept. It did, however, set up a plethora of state-owned enterprises, almost all of which are bankrupt today. The government compounded its problems by rebuffing foreign investors and borrowing heavily, partly to expand social services, especially education.
I think our taxes in Zimbabwe did not match what was happening in the economy. And
So they were too high
yes.
as to what people were actually getting.
Yes, so what Zimra and the government were expecting from the economy was a lot more than what the economy was able to shoulder. And so what we started noticing is that corporates started closing because Zimra perhaps has garnished the account because, you know, there's an amended assessment going back to perhaps 2009, and you've now got this bill from Zimra, you've got 100% penalty on that, there's interest accumulating on that, and because Zimra is empowered by the Income Tax Act to appoint the bank as an agent, they would simply go into your account, garnish the account, take everything. So what we started noticing is what was expected from the companies in terms of tax revenue and what the companies were actually able to do was mismatched. And therefore it just, the tax regime was a bit harsh for the economy that we were in.
And obviously that caused most companies to actually close down, business and pack up.
Yes.
In 2009, Zimbabwe was forced to abandon its currency, which had gone up in an inferno of hyperinflation, and to adopt the dollar as its principal means of exchange. The enforced dollarization stabilized the economy and led to an initial 40% rebound in incomes, though these have since flatlined. Now, with no local currency, money supply became entirely dependent on inflows of dollars, in effect depriving the authorities of control over monetary policy. In a desperate measure to introduce liquidity, the government introduced bond notes in 2016. These were theoretically backed by the currency, but have quickly deteriorated in value. Money supply has surged 36% in the last year, and the notes plunged 80% in the parallel market, threatening yet higher inflation.
My goods, they are from South Africa. If I get the bond note, there is no way I can find the rand. I'll just have to go to the black market.
It's not dangerous. This is the way we are used to.
Okay.
If you want money, for you to earn more from your from the US. It's better for you to exchange in the streets than to go into the banks.
Sometimes I will go and buy my maize meal there. When I want to sell it, people, they will buy it in Eco Cash. So for me to transfer that money back into hard cash, it's very difficult. These guys are charging a whole lot of money.
If I go do some other job, if I get a contract or something, you know, an opportunity, the person will pay me with like Eco Cash, you know, or a debit card, whatsoever. They pay me. You find me, it's so hard for me to get my money. I cannot hold cash. I cannot remember when I got hold of cash in my hand.
Panyaya yemari apa pati pamboti tiomere tamboomerwa napo panyaya yemari nokuti hapana patichakwanisa kuti kana ukanotengesa kunotengesa kwachona unongonzwa munhu achiti ndine mari iri mufoni.
Even as people are buying and selling, there's no money. People say they've got money in their phone, EcoCash. But even if you get the EcoCash, by the time you change it, all the money that you have is taken by the percentages. So we don't have money and it's really difficult, but we are trying all we can to survive.
I'm very much affected. I can get money in the bank accounts. Why can't the ruling people to organize something tangible? You see, you can't do anything without cash.
Does it make sense for us to adopt, or rather for Zimbabwe to adopt, like maybe the dollar or the rand as its official currency? Does it make sense? Does it make sense in terms of, you know, corporates that are operating in the country or corporates that are coming into the country?
I think the sentiment that has been expressed, and we'll read it everywhere, is that the US dollar as a currency for us in Zimbabwe at times is a bit high, and it makes our pricing a little less competitive. And the currency is too strong for what we are producing and what we're trying to sell. So there has been, of course, talk of maybe adopting a much weaker currency. And plenty of people have mentioned, you know, maybe it may be better to go to the rand as opposed to the US dollar. But I think, you know, we have to build up to a currency of our own, and we have to implement sound policies for us to be able to use the currency that we're using now. So I don't know.
Zimbabwe has 55 parties this year alone that are all competing for the seat of presidency, and this is history making. It has never really happened in the history of Zimbabwe whereby you have even more than 10 parties, political parties, opposition parties, that is, all participating in an election process. So this is the first time ever, and you know the news is that former President Robert Mugabe's name is not anywhere on the ballot, but of course we have two leading contenders here in the person of President Mnangagwa and Advocate Nelson Chamisa. The election pits 75-year-old President Emerson Mnangagwa, a long-time Mugabe ally, against 40-year-old Nelson Chamisa, a lawyer and a pastor, vying to become Zimbabwe's youngest head of state.
As for me, it's my first time. I registered to vote because of I want change.
The new dispensation has brought peace, and they've allowed people to feel free. People are moving freely, they are talking freely, they are choosing a person whom they want without any force, without anything. So in my own observation, I think this election is of its own style.
So we continue to follow the election story. This is a very historic day for Zimbabweans as they're all hoping for change and they're all heading to the ballots to cast their votes. 5.6 million voters registered to vote in this year's historic Zimbabwean election, but the queue's not as long as one would have expected. Perhaps it's a bit too early for many, but today has been declared a public holiday by the President of Zimbabwe, so one would have expected quite a huge turnout. just a few people reported in some police stations. Maybe as the day progresses, we'll see more people. But this is the Highfield constituency, the constituency of former President of Zimbabwe, Robert Mugabe. We're expecting him anytime to also come and cast his vote. But as you can see, it's busy. It's also very peaceful, I must point out. And most of the voters actually commenting that, you know what, they've had a peaceful voting process. They don't have any complaints. Most of them very content with what they have witnessed here today. And right now, I'm joined by some of the people that have already cast their votes. Please come. This is one of the people that has already cast her votes, and she's just going to tell me a bit of the experience. How was it for you?
It was free and fair, nice, no violence. Everything was good.
Okay, and the security is intact, it's in place?
Yes, it's in own place.
Are you happy with your vote?
Very much happy.
Are you willing to tell me who you voted for?
No.
It's your secret?
It's my secret. I can't tell you.
Okay,
Yes.
all right then. So you're hoping for a transformed Zimbabwe?
Yes.
What is it that you want to see in this transformed Zimbabwe?
I want to see these young people to go to work as well as our economy. You know, that's what my wish
is.
Yes.
Okay, all right. So all the best.
Yeah, I wish you all the best, guys. I want to thank for all those who come to vote.
All right. Do you say that Zimbabwe is a failed state?
I think Zimbabwe is was almost collapsing, and I think the economy is more or less imploded. It had been cut off from the outside world for a long time now, and I think whoever wins in Mnangagwa or Chamisa, will have to bring the country back into the international fold. And I'd also say that this election is not just important for Zimbabwe, but it will have reverberations beyond this border, especially in the region. So I think it's a quite a seismic election, for Africa really.
Mugabe, one of the last big men of African politics, still looms large over Zimbabwean society, and his endorsement of the opposition may yet influence the first vote without his name on the ballot paper since independence from Britain in 1980. There was commotion in the Highfields constituency as President Robert Mugabe came to cast his vote with his wife Grace Mugabe and his daughter Bona Mugabe. A 30-minute breaking and engaging discussion program that enlightens and informs viewers on political and current events happening everywhere in the world.
Nelson Chamisa, leader of the MDC Alliance, says he has proved that results were not verified.
We actually got a majority. Had it not been for the manipulation in the parliamentary election, we did exceptionally well. You will see on the tally in the parliament once we begin to unpack some of the problems that we have seen.
I got hit by a rubber bullet right here on my neck, as you can see. I didn't do anything wrong. I wasn't part of the protest. I didn't offend any.
What you want is just to change.
Things are so disorderly around here. Everybody's just selling things haphazardly. One minute you see somebody selling vegetables in this one corner, the next thing somebody is selling herbs in the other corner. Everything is disorderly, nothing is in order. People are just doing things and selling all sorts. just to make a survival, just to earn a living. And it's not right. It's also adding dirt in the city.
Zimbabwe muharara mchetonge muharare mumwe ari kubika pasadza mumwe ari kutengesa mushonga wechibhoyi mumwe ari kugocha chibage apa pane mabhero mutauni and you find out basa rinoramba richingowedzera nekuti vanoklina vesiti of Harare vacho zvinenge zvakawandira nekuti mavhenda.
You find that the city council workers will come and clean, but the dirt keeps piling because at the same time, people are using those places as toilets because the city council has not provided clean toilets for all those people and all those vendors.
Yeah. My friend, let's go. Let's go. Oh, you better right.
The military has come. You can see that the military is right behind us and everybody is dispersing, they're running away. That just shows you how people are so scared of the military here. So even us journalists, we're running away because you never know. Some people have been hit by rubber bullets, but the military has now been deployed and people of Zimbabwe are crying that isn't this a serious violation of human rights? Isn't this abuse of human rights? So we don't know how the state is going to be at this point in time. But the MDC protesters, they are vowing to continue with their protest until they're heard. So this is the current situation in Zimbabwe right now.
I have a soldier packet. Look, the live bullets. There's one there. Ah, the live rounds.
Let's follow the constitution. There's what we call rule of law. You are only declared a winner by the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission. That's the official stance. So what he's doing is inciting. He wants to set an agenda such that when actual results comes out, his people will rebel by saying our leader said we won. But they didn't win. Nobody has won so far because the results are not yet officially announced.
To be honest, we voted and everyone, especially here in urban areas, we try to vote for change. We want a better Zimbabwe, but those results, to me, I don't know, but I've got a feeling that they were not the right results.
So what's the way forward now?
I think the way forward, I heard that President Chamisa is going for the courts, but I know Zimbabwean courts, they're just as good as SEC. Nothing else. Even those 2002 elections, 2008 elections, 13 elections, the cases are still by the courts, but we are not getting anything from the courts.
Okay, so does this mean that you will just accept and maybe just hope for something to change at least? In terms of rebuilding the economy.
Rebuilding the economy, that's if the elections are regarded as credible by maybe the Western countries, EU and stuff. But without those guys endorsing those elections, we will be like under sanctions, isn't it? So I see no change.
Well, it's just a few days after Zimbabwe took to the ballot to vote for a new president. Zimbabwe Electoral Commission declaring that Emmerson Dambudzo Mnangagwa is a democratically elected president of the Democratic Republic of Zimbabwe.
The votes received by Mnangagwa Emmerson Dambudzo of ZANU-PF party are more than half the number of votes cast in the presidential election. Therefore, Mnangagwa Emmerson Dambudzo of ZANU-PF party is therefore duly declared elected president of the Republic of Zimbabwe with effect from the 3rd of August 2018.
Now, President Mnangagwa and his current administration are left with the huge task of transforming this economy that has literally come to a standstill with a cash crisis, jobs, unemployment rising, inflation escalating to the greatest heights. What is the way forward for Zimbabwe? Life has returned to normalcy. Vendors are back on the streets, shops are open, and everybody is going about.
We seek survival in Zimbabwe. That's our wish. This government that has won, we respect it. But we are looking for an economic rebuild. They should respect us as citizens. We need to get money. Money is what makes us survive.
The
urgent thing that we need the government to attend to is the issue of the cash shortage. We really don't have money to do anything. Everything is EcoCash, and EcoCash has high charges, so even if you have money in your phone, by the time you want to take it, it'll be just a small amount left that probably is not enough for the things that you want to do. We've got school kids, we want to pay for school fees, we want to buy food, we need transport to go from.
You know, we're not happy about it because they need to wake up, because this life, you know, you only live once, and we have got some other kids, another generation coming. So I would like to say they need to wake up and do the right thing.
You know, finding hope in a Zimbabwe like this.
Well, it's always struck me as a journalist, and I've been to around 50 countries, very often countries which are impoverished, countries in the middle of conflicts or post-conflict, and it is a strange situation that you have in those places much more hope and many more dreams than you probably get in the West now. So I think that hope is here. If we do get a responsible, honest leadership, I don't see why this country should not get out of the current mess and prosper.
Thank you so much for your comments.
Pleasure.
So what is next for Zimbabwe as Zimbabweans in this country find hope for a better future?
Hudson Zamara, a political activist, has tasted the wrath of Mugabe's regime.
Well, my experience, like you said, has not been a great one, but I'm grateful because with it comes experience, with it comes also the clarity of what I consider to be God's grace. Essentially, I was forced to fight when my brother Itai Zamara was abducted on the 9th of March.
His brother Itai Zamara was abducted by government agents 2 years ago for speaking out against Mugabe regime and has since never been found.
We've never minced our words regarding who is responsible for Itai's disappearance. It's ZANU-PF, and the responsibility lies with Mugabe himself. He must account for Itai. Kana isusu vakuru tatadza kudzidzisana rudo, vana vedu ndo vachatidzidzisa rudo. Itai ameni.
The reason why he was abducted is because he chose to take a stand against leadership failure in the country, and he spoke his mind. He spoke against the government, he spoke against the former president.
And yes, that's what I was about to say. That was under the regime of former President Robert Mugabe.
Yes, that was under the regime of former President Robert Mugabe. That made him a madman, and the culmination of it all led to him being abducted. And to date, we really cannot tell what transpired after the 9th of March. Of course, we've done our investigations, and we've also received so many theories trying to propound what could have happened. We're not in a position to assume any position, really, regarding what could have happened to him. Now, that is the backdrop of my entrance into activism / politics.
Itai Zamara, a pro-democracy activist and human rights defender, was forcibly disappeared on March the 9th of 2015. Zamara, the leader of Occupy Africa Unity Square, a small protest group modelled after the Arab Spring uprisings, had led a number of peaceful protests concerning the deteriorating political and economic environment in Zimbabwe in 2014 and 2015 respectively.
He said, when my brother was abducted, I tried to be circumspect, I tried to be cautious, and guess what? Almost every day for a month, I would dream my brother. I would see him in dreams, even if it was maybe during lunchtime and I'm taking a nap, I would dream my brother. And I knew somehow that I had to speak out.
Was he passing a message to you?
In most cases, most of those dreams, I would have gone to take him.
Having been imprisoned many times in 1 year, he wants nothing but a total change of leadership in Zimbabwe.
But now you also went through a lot of torture,
Yeah.
physically, emotionally, and mentally, because then you now chose to speak for your brother.
Yeah. So yes, in 2016 alone, 2016, I was arrested more than 30 times, and I appeared in court more than 100 times. Now that's ridiculous.
That sounds absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. And the main reason why I had to go through such austere experiences is because I chose to take a stand against the oppression and the abduction of my brother. And not only that, I chose to augment and carry on with the work my brother had started. That is to address the leadership question and to confront the leadership issues our nation was, and I would love to believe is still engulfed in. Yes.
After Mugabe was ousted, Patson has been hoping that his brother would be released, or at least see his remains, if anything.
I know, you know, it's a very difficult time at this point in time where you're still trying to figure out what has happened to your brother. But did it kind of bring any hope of change or knowing where he is, particularly after the regime of former President Robert Mugabe was ousted?
Well, ironically, under the so-called new dispensation, no, nothing. And I mean, that's a major red flag, because I've done my best representing our family to engage. Okay, I said, look, here's a situation, here's an issue we feel has to be addressed. What did they do? They stonewalled us out, and to date, there hasn't been any engagement whatsoever. In other words, there has never been any resolute position from the standpoint of the so-called new dispensation to try and address this issue. And that in itself really leaves me wondering what's new about this so-called new dispensation.
Did they really change?
Yeah, I mean, it's a simple issue, really. At the end of the day, it's a simple issue, and we're using this issue as a guinea pig, if you can say that, as something we can then use maybe as a template to say, okay, this is how, when people are oppressed, the government has to respond.
When Zamara's wife, Shefred Zamara, approached the High Court in Harare to compel state authorities to search for her husband, government officials failed to comply with the court order to report on the investigation's progress.
It is indeed unexpected that the police failed to come up with a single lead regarding my missing brother. Of course, I am convinced that it is not that they do not know what happened, but they are working under strict instruction. But God has his own ways.
I know it's a rather very sensitive question that I would ask, but do you think your brother Itai is still alive? Is there still any hope of finding him and bringing him back home to his family?
No, look, like I told you, we have breezed through so many theories, yeah, regarding what could have transpired to Itai. I was not there. The last time I spoke to Itai was on the 8th of March in 2015. And what transpired after that is now a matter of us using our discretion to say, okay, maybe this is probably closer to the truth, this is believable, this is not believable, okay? So, having said that, I cannot in any way categorically state Itai's fate, because I was not there. I mean, I might be shown some things, or someone might come and tell me, oh, we know what happened, ABC happened or could have happened, but those remain theories. So until and unless, number one, we reunite again with Itai, or we at least see his remains, then we can ascertain, or we can answer, or I can answer the question regarding what could be the fate, or what could have happened to him. So whether he's alive or not, well, to be honest with you, I don't know.
Police, ZANU-PF supporters assaulted him on several occasions, including during a peaceful protest in November of 2014, when about 20 uniformed police handcuffed and hit him with batons until he lost consciousness.
Zimbabwe is now ushering into a completely different new era. And as an activist who has openly spoken about the economic and social ills of Zimbabwe, and very well known that you've also made clear the party that you're vying for in this historical election, what are you hoping for in this new Zimbabwe? What are you expecting to see? Is it a possibility that this will actually be a reality?
Well, look, I've been on record, and this I stated in November, much to the dismay of others who probably did not project some of the chaos I had projected then. I wrote an article, and it was actually published in the Newsday and News 24. The article, the title is Choosing Between the Devil and Lucifer. And here is my thesis, the thesis I presented in that article. November 2017 shall rank among the greatest human betrayals of all time. What do I mean? A nation was demanded to choose, to make a choice between, well, this is figurative, between the devil and Lucifer. Now we know the devil and Lucifer is just but the same thing, it's a matter of semantics. And so a nation, because they were too desperate for change, they thought that there is a marked distinction between the devil and Lucifer, and so they discarded the devil and went for Lucifer. Now, we all know that, like I said, it's a matter of semantics. The devil is Lucifer, Lucifer is the devil. And so when people started saying, oh, it's the new dispensation, we pleaded caution. Say, no, look, Robert Mugabe did not plunge Zimbabwe into political and economic chaos on his own.
Absolutely.
He did so with the help of the custodians of this so-called new dispensation. So what are we talking about here? So to me, it was a matter of a power game within a political party, and the other faction won. That did not in any way, and that should not be in any way interpreted as reform or transformation, okay? Now, having said that, I know, and to his credit, Emmerson Mnangagwa, under this so-called new dispensation, or deception, in my words, has tried to present a face of reform. But one thing I know from a leadership perspective, as a leadership expert, is that problems can never be solved at the same level they were created. And that's one thing most Zimbabweans actually got to then acclimatize to along the way. They realize, you know what, in as much as these guys are trying to present a face of reform, those are mere cosmetics. As far as the root system is concerned, there's no reform to talk about, and there's nothing much to be expected from these fellas. And so, as we have voted, we voted yesterday, I am really confident that the people of Zimbabwe were able to distinguish between the two. Exactly. And so it is my hope and my wish that the election is going to radiate and reflect that aspect about us, that we're able to see through the deception, we're able to see through the shenanigans and the surface cosmetics, which are not necessarily an attestation of transformation or reform. These are the same people who actually were the enforcers under Mugabe's administration. I do not expect much from them. That is the truth. And that has been my position. If you were to check the records, even in November, when everyone was raptured in that ecstasy, I maintained, let's be cautious. These people are the same people who have led us to this point where, our nation is on its knees.
The story of Itai is the story of many who have disappeared without a trace.
What is next for Zimbabwe as Zimbabweans in this country find hope for a better future?